Hey everybody, it's Ian. Welcome to Enjoying Orange Slices with Jeff and Ian. Originally titled School District 88, otherwise titled Orange Slices, till we found out there was also a show called Orange Slices, now called Enjoying Orange Slices with Jeff and Ian. This week we talk about the big hubbub in the New York Rangers organization. We also talk about jerseys. We also talk about whether your kid should play year round, thanks to viewer mail. If you want to send us a question, go to Ian at ianbagg.com. Send us an email, and we may use your question on a show. So, week 3, have fun, enjoy hockey. It's the best game ever. Games, lots of games this week. We're just teasing each other about he wants it to be done quick. He's got things to do, but lots of games this week. He's got many games to watch. But I guess we start. The most exciting thing of the whole week was the wheels coming off in New York and things going down in the dressing room and for the New York Rangers and somebody being putting on waivers and now clearing waivers. How often does that happen in today's game, and how often did it happen in yesterday's game, where somebody could take the whole wheels off a bus?
Yeah, it's becoming, well, it was non-existent back in the day. It's not to say that there weren't disagreements or there were fights in practice once in a while, but what you're talking about is Tony DeAngelo and the New York Rangers.
All right, I guess I should let people know what I was talking about. I was very
well, there. We're trying.
You're coming up with it. Yeah, so New York Rangers, they lost to the Pittsburgh Penguins, and I guess we start there. What did you think of that whole play that the Penguins were able to take and score the goal? Because the Rangers were on the ice for so long, right? They just didn't get it at all. So I don't know.
Yeah, I believe the Rangers, I think as we tape this, are like 2-5-2 or something. So to kind of set the foundation for this story, things aren't great in New York right now with a team that's supposed to be on the rise. The specific play we're talking about that kind of led to the blow up in the dressing room after was during an overtime 3-on-3. The goaltender, Georgiev, had the puck. He had it on his forehand, but he reversed it. Kind of a no-look pass back up the boards. The New York player that was going behind the net to get the puck was Tony DeAngelo, but the player from the Penguins that was chasing him was Sidney Crosby. So I can kind of see where the goalie was kind of like, this isn't good to have Crosby so close in the area, and I'm handling the puck. So he just kind of got rid of it. Maybe would have been a little bit better to throw it on his forehand and just get it out of the zone. Or
if you take a look at it, nobody was on in front of him from the Pittsburgh Penguins. It was clear sailing, and there was 2 players behind him, and he it seems like he panicked, right? Did it look like he panicked? So
yeah, I would say with Sidney Crosby in the area, the stress level would definitely have risen substantially,
especially for a goalie to be handling the puck back there. So and then apparently, well, not apparently, what happened was that they scored, which you would think Sidney Crosby and the Penguins would do in that situation, right?
Crosby and guys like that, that's why they're superstars. They put people in positions on the ice where they're very uncomfortable, feel like their time and space is compressed. Obviously, the goaltender on that play probably was in that, that mindset that he knew who was coming down, or who was on the ice at least. So, it fast forwards, the Rangers never touched the puck again, and then Crosby scores. And then after that, that's kind of where things really started to melt down after the game for the Rangers. And they're not off to a very good start. And everybody's probably, not too easy to hit, or not too difficult to hit a nerve. And that's what happened between, the goaltender and Georgiev and DeAngelo after the game.
It's interesting that you say that, because obviously do you think that was created at the beginning of the season, or do you think that's something that's grown, or do you think that's something that's reared its ugly head? Like, obviously that just doesn't happen after one game or one play where
Right.
guys go at each other. So,
Yeah.
and do you think they're doing it the right way to stomp that out? Because not everybody's going to get along in a team no matter what, right? So
No, they're not. If you look back, to say that this happened 7, 8, 9, 10 games in the season, or because of the play in that game, sure, frustrations were, feelings were running high after the game, but to have that kind of outburst at this point in the season, maybe with the 56 games, it could, that could lend itself to a little bit more stress on everybody. But this might have gone back to the bubble last year in Toronto when the Rangers were up there. They didn't play very well up there. I think they got beat in 5 games by Carolina, took them out, and so this could have been smoldering for a while. It's unfortunate to see young defensemen being in an organization who invested. He just signed a 2-year extension for $9.6 million. It's unfortunate to see him. I like him as a player. He's got some grit. He's a right-handed shot, and New York signed him for 9.6 over the next 2, and now 24 hours after that play happens, he's waived. And as we're talking right now, he's cleared waivers and no one's picked him up. So
where do you think he'd fit
in? Unfortunate.
Where do you think he would fit in nicely? Where do you do his style of play from the outside that you see?
Mm-hmm.
Where do you fit in?
Well, there's some teams that I think would like him. Obviously, Ottawa probably would look at that player with what's gone on there.
Problem with Ottawa. But the problem with Ottawa getting anybody, you're another 10 games in before you can even start practicing with you. So is there a point of going after him, right?
Right. And Pittsburgh always seems to be interested in they're always looking for D. Out in the West here, I think, for some reason, Anaheim rings a bell with me. Maybe LA, but more Anaheim, because it kind of like, D'Angelo, he's got some plays with an edge and that's the kind of player they seem to, like in Anaheim. With their D, maybe.
Do you look at it in this kind of? Do you look at it in this kind of situation with the 56 games? If there's a chance of you barely making, like the Kings, I think there's a very barely of chance of them making the playoffs. Do you waste time on trades, or do you stick with the core you have to build for a later situation? Whereas Anaheim, there is a chance that they might make the playoffs. I would say Anaheim go after him, even though I don't think he should go to Anaheim.
You could throw San Jose in there. There's a lot of teams, Ian, that you could throw in there, but you brought up a great point. The Canadian quarantine, 14 days, as we're seeing so far with Pierre-Luc Dubois, the federal government has not granted him any kind of leeway on that 14-day COVID, where he's got a quarantine. So there's teams out there, like San Jose could use some D, but there's way more to unpack from this story than with the snippet we've seen. And teams now, before they invest any money, are going to want to have the full story. And there's 2 sides to every coin, so it'll work its way out.
There's 2 sides to every coin, and I'm curious to see if who gets the blame. Say the Rangers go on a winning streak after this game, and it's huge. But what if the Rangers stay exactly where they are? So if they go on a winning streak, it's the problem was him in the dressing room, and if they don't. Is a coach up for being fired, or what do you think happens? Because it's a huge story, so something's it's not just one wave. It's got to be multiple waves happen, right?
Well, we've seen this year so far, and these are young men. I think Tony DeAngelo is only 25. We've seen it with Pierre-Luc Dubois got moved, Laine got moved, Roslovic was holding out. Now you hear Sam Bennett, who's only 24, and a player I really like, might want out of Calgary. You're seeing it's different than it was. And, you can't compare today's game to what you saw 20 years ago or 15 years ago. But at the same time, the players have a little bit more, I don't know if the word's power, but they have a little bit more control than the players did back in the day. And so, these teams have, Winnipeg acted fast, Columbus acted fast. Now New York has acted fast by just outright waiving a player. So obviously, like I said earlier, there's a lot more to the story, but it's mind-boggling to me in one regard that these some people say these players are forcing their way out or they're doing this or that, but I just think that times have changed a little bit and the players have a little bit more control. And
also
back when I played, it wouldn't have been that way at all.
I'm going to put out there that when you're in something, you don't really see the whole picture. When you're right in something, you can see it a little bit. And I'll explain it to the people outside. There's a clock that I just found on the upper left-hand side of our screen that tells us how much time we've done. I've been timing it on my phone for the last 3 weeks. And I just found it. So sometimes when you're inside something, you don't see the magic that's around you. And I think some guys calling for trades, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's a little bit of homeschool. Maybe it's a little bit of just being told that they're the best. Maybe everybody gets a trophy. But I don't think just because you're not getting exactly what you want means you should run from a team. Anyways, that's what you bring up those players. What teams do you think really shone this week? What 3 teams really shone?
Well, I'm going to go off the board. There's some teams that I think have been outstanding and maybe don't get a lot of love in the national press. And one of them is Florida. Florida. Yeah, I just heard whoever was watching click off. I know it, but I give Florida credit because it's tough down there. Obviously, things are different, but they've made a few acquisitions that I think are solid. So I'm going to give Florida some props. Another team I'm going to give props to is Carolina. Wow. They had a little bit of a COVID incident. They came back and they looked really good. And if you want to watch a team to play, and I love their coach Brendan Moore, he's got them believing. And he's like they say, he's probably in better shape than all the players. So there's a lot of respect there, and they play hard. They're a fun team to watch. Although they had a couple scary injuries the other night to a couple of their players.
Well, they said Mrazek's out for a couple of weeks and might need surgery. So that. Yeah. Definitely. Yeah. I don't know who is it. Reimer? Is their backup goalie?
Yes. As far as I can recall, yes, it's Reimer. So there's a lot of pressure there.
A lot of pressure. Do you think they go looking for somebody to fill that hole now?
Well, they might, but there's a belief. It's just watching them. They just kind of seem to have this belief about them, and they're growing their team and they're getting better, and their goaltending was good enough for them in the bubble last year. Mm-hmm. It's a lot to ask with the back-to-backs, what's going on, so they could be looking for someone for sure. The other team that I'll throw out there real quick, and I was going to put them in last week, another team that's had a little bit of a COVID incident, and they came out and was Washington. So I had a couple of honorable mentions in there for other teams too, but I have to tip my hat to Washington. Lavallette's gone in there, settled them down. Chara's been a huge plus for him as well. So they had 4 of their big guns out last week, and they still won. So I'll give them credit.
I think Laviolette is a great addition to that team. A lot of people don't like him, but I think he just, I think he why don't people like him? People complain what he did at the ending in Nashville and what he did in Philadelphia. I just think he seems like the kind of guy, and this is just me talking as a comedian, that comes in and talks to you, and you respect what he's done when he played, and you respect when you see him look at the game. You kind of see, because it's interesting. Some of these guys it doesn't feel like you can tell how they see the game when they coach. It doesn't feel like there's some guys where it just feels like there's that view from on top of the building. They're looking down and they can see everything. And some guys just seem panicked. Some just and I'm not going to
in Washington, maybe they were, because when I watched them last year, I thought they were still running through fountains and partying. They were still partying the Stanley Cup. It's taken them a year to kind of get themselves back on track. They weren't very good in the bubble. Now you look at them, and they've made some really. I mean, Chara, we talked about him last week. Laviolette's a kind of no nonsense guy, veteran coach that I think can he's not Barry Trotz, in the relationship Trotz had with those guys, but he's definitely dug down on these guys, and they're playing well, and they've had a good start.
For me, the three teams that I enjoyed this week, I want to say St. Louis came back and fought hard and was scoring goals and keeping goals out of their net. So you got to, and the fact that they beat, they went into Las Vegas and gave them COVID and then left. I was just like, oh, that's interesting. nobody on St. Louis gets the COVID recall, but they're all right, okay, all right. So, I thought they played better, even though I didn't get to see a full game. Minnesota, I thought played very well this week. Who's the guy in Minnesota with the jewelry? I was looking for the name. There's one guy that wears a gold necklace. Have you seen him?
It's you know what? It might be. Is it Kaprizov, the young rookie? I haven't. I watched them the last couple of nights against Colorado, and if Mini, I don't disagree. I think they just have to cut down on some of their penalties, and that was a problem for them in the bubble too. But they're definitely a team that you got to look out for. They could surprise some people.
They look fun, and Kaprizov with his jewelry looks like he's trying to emulate Jagger. Which that's
not bad.
Which is not bad, but the fact you want to just play like him, you don't want to dress like him on it. Wait for that tuck of the jersey in the back. So and Jagger, I had no idea, still playing, 48 years old, playing on a team in I think the Czech Republic, probably owns the team too. Nobody said that, but he was scoring goals the other night, which just makes everybody happy when you see somebody that age playing so well. Oh, I'm gonna go get my vaccine for shingles. Meanwhile, he's out there playing. Anyways, and my third team was the Vancouver Canucks, completely turning it around. Although 3 times against Ottawa, not the best team in the league, but playing very well against Winnipeg. I thought they had their best game of the week against Winnipeg, which is no slouch. Anytime you can score on that goaltender in Winnipeg, I think you are definitely playing up. You're not just having a lucky game. You're playing very well. So
because he's got the best goaltending coach in the league, right? We know that. So in Winnipeg.
Oh, it sounds like he's fantastic.
You know who that guy is?
I think he lived on. What did he live on? Did he live on Olsen? What street
Walsh.
did he? He lived on Walsh. Oh, all the punks lived on Walsh. All the punks. Anyways, that's Wade Flaherty up in. He's originally from Terrace, British Columbia. He's part of the 635 crew. Anyways, I enjoyed those 3 teams, and I guess who would be my honorable mention for this week? I would say Carolina. See, the reason you put Carolina in there, but I'll put Carolina in there just because they did have that extra break. I think if you get the time off and you don't come out storming the castle, you're out of it. So they definitely both Dallas and them stormed the castle. So I think they had to do that. They knew what they had to do. And also when you get games off to sit and watch and see what the other teams do, I think you have an advantage too. So, but my disappointments of the week, I go to my disappointment. Avalanche, the Colorado Avalanche, just something's missing there. I just expected them to push everybody around and score so many goals. Everybody said that they needed to make a goaltending change at the end of the year. I thought that their goaltending was going to be good enough with the team they had. I guess my other disappointment would be I was not, and I hate to do this because I feel like I'm pushing on to them from last week, and I'm pushing on to them the Columbus Blue Jackets. I just feel that they're just something. It's not right. It's not a boat I'd want to get on. If they were a boat, I would try to pick a different boat. And then of course the Edmonton Oilers, just too much going on there. They're the same. It's just I don't want them to win. So personally, I'm not an Oilers fan. Seem to have some painting going on in the background. I'm not. I'm not an Oilers fan, but there's too much talent and it's too exciting. of a team to not be at least midway. They're disappointing to me. So they're my biggest disappointment of the week. How about you?
Well, I would just go with number one for me is the Islanders, just because there's got such a good team. There's so much good there. They're just not doing their thing. They're playing from behind. They're a little bit undisciplined.
Not a fair.
And they did get, Philly took them. They took Philly to overtime a couple times this weekend, but higher scoring games. And we've talked about the Islanders in the past, and maybe not together here, but the thing is with the Islanders is their kind of hockey is winning hockey, and they're not playing that right now. So it's exciting for everyone else because, some of the other teams are scoring goals against them, but they're just not where they have been. Number two is Calgary. Just a little bit disappointed with Calgary as far as they were 1-3 last week. They got a win on Saturday night, but it seems that if Markstrom doesn't stand on his head right now, their new goalie they got from Vancouver in the offseason, that they just are having trouble. So we'll see if there's they got a spark there beating Montreal on Saturday night. Then the third one, again, probably, a lot of people are like, well, that's a no-brainer, but Ottawa. And I had another, we picked on the Rangers last week. I don't want to go there with them again, even though there's more expectation there. In Ottawa, they played Vancouver 3 times. It's tough to beat in the NHL team once, and then they always say it's really tough to beat them twice in a row. Vancouver beat Ottawa 3 times in a row, got healthy overnight. As we tape this, Edmonton played Ottawa, scored 8 goals. Ottawa's given up 30 goals, I believe, in their last 5 games. Now, the beacon of light in Ottawa to me is Tkachuk, Norris, and Batherson line. And, those guys are all 22. The 2 wingers, which is Tkachuk and Batherson, are 22, and Norris, I believe the centerman's 21. Mm-hmm. There's your glimmer of hope in Ottawa. Their goaltending, they signed Matt Murray to stop the puck. That hasn't happened so far. And it's tough to watch, and I feel bad because, in that division up there, now everybody in Canada in the North Division is going to be looking at that team going, we can't afford to give them anything. We got to get the points. And so, and if they can't keep it out of their net, they're going to need to score 5-6 goals a night. It's going to be really tough. So there's my 3.
It's interesting that somebody said to me just not too long ago, they've never watched Ottawa so many times in 1 year. That was you. You told me that. And it's true. And when you watch a team that many times, when you watch full games, it really shines on some certain parts that you wouldn't notice if you were watching other games. So I don't know why I didn't put Ottawa. I guess I don't know if it's I don't expect that much from Ottawa, or the other teams disappointed me more. I expected more from them, because Ottawa. I didn't think Ottawa was gonna win the Stanley Cup. Or at the beginning of the year, people were like, "Oh, Ottawa's gonna be surprised. They might win the cup this year." I'm like, what are you, fucked? Anyways, it's interesting before the season starts, and then 3 games in, and then 10 games in. Where's the point where there's no hope for a team this year? Where do you think? How many games is that?
Well, you know what? I mean, I think right now Ottawa it's got to find. They've got to strike gold or find lightning in a bottle somewhere. That's a team that's in dire need of some good things to happen to them. And just watching them play, they're unfortunately so far out of sync in so many areas. Like I said, they have young guys on the farm. They've got some really good young guys in their lineup, but it's really tough to play all those guys. And people might say, well, they should just play them. They're losing anyways. Well, you know what? I think some of the guys, they probably want to get some games in the American League before they bring them up. And, they're trying to develop these guys too. So, right. And then looking at the Rangers and where they are, the teams with obviously 1 or 2 wins, we're not that far into it. But in the next week or so, those teams have got to start climbing up the ladder or they're going to be out. Right. I mean, you could say, well, we play each other every night in division, but it's just going to be the math isn't going to work out. And so the teams that have, 3 wins, 1 win, they got to kind of step on the gas here in the next week or two and climb up the ladder a bit.
And it was a great weekend, a great week, I guess. The third jersey was on a lot of people. I enjoyed seeing the third jersey on most teams. Some it didn't matter. Some I was just like, meh, and some made me want to barf. What was your couple favorite jerseys, and what were your least favorite jerseys of the third?
Well, I got to give Minnesota credit for their third jersey. I really liked that.
So
that was solid. Yeah, and
old school, but just taken a little bit brighter, and just you feel bad for the equipment manager because there's going to be some work put into that jersey. Keeping that crisp. You got to keep that crisp because it was very crisp. Yeah.
I think Vegas too. I liked Vegas's golds. That was kind of hit and miss with some folks, but I liked what they did with those. So I know I think you only asked me about one, but I liked what they did there with that. They are the Golden Knights, so let's see how it turns out. It looks pretty good to me on TV. You can see the numbers well, and so those two. And then on the flip side, wasn't over the moon with Dallas neon black with the neon.
I thought it was fun. I thought it was very soccer, and I would think that Seattle might be a little butthurt on that because I thought Seattle was going to do something with the neon green, to be honest with you. So I would think they would be, but I think they got something going on there with those colors in Seattle, did they not? So I think
well, that's the thing, and I kind of compared to that. Seattle. I like Seattle's colors. Talking the NFL team, I like their colors. They went neon. I don't know about the Kraken. It looks like the Kraken are going to go a little bit away from that color, but Dallas has got great colors and a great uni. Although I must say, the one they wore in the outdoor game with the beige gloves and the beige pants last year, I wasn't over I liked the jersey and the socks. I wasn't over, I didn't really love the pants and the gloves.
Yeah.
That was kind of maybe an old school look, but I the neon with the black uniform in Dallas wasn't, it wasn't great. No, not for me.
Any other fails for you? Any other fails?
I got to have a closer look at Washington's jersey. I like they got great colors as well. So, but the W,
Yeah, I liked it. It was I like it. It also a little show to the football team not having a second name. We're just Washington. We're the Washington Hockey Team. So I actually enjoyed Philadelphia's. Went with a neon orange on a dark jersey. I thought that looked pretty good. I did not like Edmonton's. Edmonton reminded me of Dallas in the outdoor game. It kind of had that beige thing going on. I don't know if you've seen that. It looked dirty to me. Whereas the other Minneapolis and Dallas had a real crisp, a real good, strong, and I just didn't. There's no way I'd buy that jersey from Edmonton.
I could see you were firm in that belief there.
Turned off
shaking your fist. I thought I was going to get a sermon there for a second.
Get a sermon. He said colors to make sure that you use the colors. You can't go with the foreign colors. Anyway, we got a little bit more going on here. We got we got a letter this week. We got a fan mail. This fan mail comes from Brian Supernolt. Brian says, he says, Jeff, don't really care about Ian. You were a comedian. You never played hockey. And even when you did play hockey, you weren't that good. Well, thanks, Brian. Should kids play year round? He wants to know if the kids should be playing year round. A lot of kids do that. How do you feel about it? What do you think?
Yeah, well, where we grew up, we didn't have the chance to play year round because they took the ice out in the spring and put it back in the fall. So we had to do something else. I think it's good to get away from the game. My thing about what's it look like play year round? Are you on the ice all the time, or are you doing other things? I think if you can find a good place for your son or daughter, performance-based training, and you can always work on your shot or your stick handling or shooting the puck or the ball, whatever it is, in the garage or in your backyard or somewhere. So to me, getting on the ice is good if the kids are enjoying doing it in the summer. But there's a lot of other sports. A lot of these kids, I think soccer, whether they play football or baseball, whatever it is, as long as they're conditioning and their training is kept up.
from an outside point of view, it doesn't matter. You can get the kid you can keep him in hockey year round and have him at a crazy good level. But if he no longer wants to play because you turned him out on it, what's the point? He was the best kid until he was 11, and then he decided to go dirt biking. You don't like that.
Well, you start the car up and they're not in the car.
Yeah,
that's a pretty good indication right there. If you got to drag them out the door and it's
right.
not 6 or 5 in the morning, then you might want to rethink it. And that's why I say diversify what you're doing with them as far as training. Maybe they want to go golf with their friends. I don't know. If they want to play on the soccer team. I just think there's ways to train the kids away from the ice that's really, really beneficial. And you can see it all the time with these pros that, like you watch how Crosby and these guys train, McKinnon, and these guys are superstars, obviously, but McDavid, same thing. But there's all the other guys that play in the league. They're not on the ice the whole time either. They take some time off. And if they go on the ice, it might be to work on their shot or work on some things, or maybe it's just to play 4v4 or 5v5 with their friends. And then, it's good.
I'll have some fun. Big thing is it's got to be fun. Just like this podcast. It's got to be fun. Podcast is fun. Oh, anyways, Jeff, we got lots of games coming up this week. I'll see you next week when we get back at it. Good luck getting your house painted.
I got to get back to it now.
See you next week, Jeff.
Okay, thanks. Bye.
Well, guys, thanks for watching another episode of Enjoying Orange Slices with Jeff and Ian. Make sure you tune in next week and share this with your friends. Like it with your friends. Rate, review, send a question. Don't forget to come see me this week in Philadelphia at Helium Comedy Club. I'll be there for 4 shows. Enjoy the Super Bowl, but don't forget, hockey is the best sport ever. Go Canucks.